Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today we have three amazing guests joining us. We have Denise Filipchuk, we have Kevin Kirkwood, and Gerry Friesen. Welcome back to the show, guys. How are you?
Great. Thanks, Tracy.
Good. Thanks for having us, Tracy.
I'm excited to have you back. I think this is becoming an annual thing and very exciting. We are going to be talking about managing the storm once again. And before we dive in, I'm just going to get each of you to share who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into the good stuff. Gerry, you want to go? I'm putting you on the spot first.
All right, not a problem. You probably owe me that. I'm Gerry Friesen. I also am known as a recovering farmer. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Tracy. I guess I call myself a conflict management and stress specialist. So I do a lot of conflict management work, and I also do talk about stress management, and intertwined with that is, of course, I tell my own story, which you and I have talked about before, Tracy. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
Perfect. Kevin, you're up.
All right. Who am I? So I guess pretty much all my years of managing people and my HR work has been in the agriculture industry. And so about, I guess, 6 years ago, I went in to do it on my own and started working with farm families and just helping them either through a transition or just, helping them with their HR structure. And so I've been doing that for a while. Right now, my day job as well is an HR manager for a large construction company that kind of helps me keep up on all the labor laws and some of those expectations.
Excellent. And Denise.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Denise Filipchuk, and I'm the owner of Filipchuk Management, Inc. It's a consulting practice, and we specialize in our practice with working with farm families in the areas of financial management, intensive debt management, strategic planning, and transition planning. And we also have a bookkeeping service line and do some statement generation as well. So very happy to be working with farm families in those areas and just helping them work through whatever it is that they're working towards resolving.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So today we are going to be talking about managing the storm again. And this interview is based off the live and in-person events you guys are going to get to do this year. And I know this is an event that you guys do every year. So Denise, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Managing the Storm event? What's it about? Why did it start? How can people attend? And then we'll go into all the details.
Okay, so Managing Through the Storm, we're pretty happy to be hosting our third annual event, and this year hosting in two locations, one in Yorkton and one in Virden, Manitoba as well. So Managing Through the Storm really just came up as Gerry and Kevin and I were really just chatting about, what can we do and wanting to host some kind of an event, and really just looked at the areas that all three of us work in, very different areas working with farm families, and thought this would be great to put this together into one event. And I'm not even sure where the title came up with, or how we came up with that actually, looking back. But somehow that title come about, and we all jumped on it and went, yeah, you know what, that's catchy. So let's run with this. So started it out there a couple years ago just to see, is this going to work? Is this something that farm families are interested in? Is this something that industries are interested in supporting? And found that to be a huge success in year one. Decided to do it last year, and due to COVID regulations, we weren't able to host it in person, but held that virtually. Great success, so decided to let's give it a shot again. And this year it looks like we are good to go and able to have in-person events. So we're pretty happy to be able to get out in front of people again, in front of a full live audience. And we do have registrations already pouring in for both locations. So it looks like we've got some farm families very interested in that. And our supporters are interested in and strongly supporting and promoting right now as well.
Nice. In person. That's going to be a little weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm excited for you guys.
Yes, but very good. It'll be really nice in front of people again.
It's time. You know what? People need to connect face to face in person. Okay. So Denise, I'm going to keep you rolling and keep you on the spot here. So you guys each take a session within the event, and yours is called Managing the Storm. Can you touch on that theme and why you feel it's important for farm businesses to proactively plan and manage for the storm?
So in every farm family business, there's always storms that we're managing through, whether they are a financial storm, a family communication storm, whether that storm is actually weather related or any other issues that come up when you're farming or ranching. So we're going to spend some time talking about cash flow, working capital, how to help manage through those financial storms, and as well as having effective communication and managing those relationships, whether they're with creditors or family members, employees, and having effective family meetings. I find one of the large barriers to family businesses and transition planning is having effective family meetings. And what do we talk about in those meetings? How do we have effective family meetings? And what do we do? And how do we deal with conflict, as not that when or if it will show up, but when it will, and how to manage through those moments that you can't even prepare for. So that's what I'm going to talk about in our presentation. And there's a connection between all of our presentations and not too much overlap, but definitely a connection between what Kevin's going to talk about with regards to the human resource management side, and then Gerry as well. He's going to talk to us about conflict management and stress management as well. So connection between all of us, but that's where I'm going to start off the day talking about that.
Okay, perfect. Kevin, you're next. So your presentation is titled Avoiding the Storm. Can you touch on what that means to you and the high level message that you're there to share with farmers?
Yeah, so lots of farms, usually when I get called to go on a farm, there's troubles. There's employee troubles, trouble within the family, and a lot of it is avoidable, and it's all about structure. So my presentation is really geared to how do you avoid it? What do you do? And it'll be split up in a couple of sections. It'll be working with family and some key tips on, when you're working side by side with your son or daughter. And then, of course, the other side is just managing employees. And I quote one of my clients, and his farm grew. They had a very, very aggressive growth strategy going on. But of course, as you grow, you have to add more employees. And yeah, he was pretty down. Whereas, my love is farming. I signed up to be a farmer, and I sure didn't sign up to be somebody's boss. And definitely wasn't having fun farming anymore. And by the time we got through our program, he was having fun again. So that was a pretty rewarding experience.
Love it. I have a point to say on that, Kevin, but I'm going to leave it for the next
right.
point. Okay, Gerry, your presentation, your segment is called Caught in the Storm. Can you touch on your theme, your message, what you talk to farmers about at the event?
Tracy, thanks for that. I find myself in a kind of an awkward situation. I know that when we planned this workshop, we were talking, I know last year I did two separate presentations, one on conflict management, one on stress management. And yet, while I've been thinking about it and we talked about how we would set up our agenda for this one, I said, well, you know what? to make it work, and we should also touch on the fact that we have a guest speaker coming in, but to make this work, I would do this just as one presentation. And I guess the reason I thought that is because I often see overlap between stress and conflict and how to address each one. And so in a weak moment, I said I'd do one, and I'm going to try and overlap the two. But what I really want to focus in on this year is when I talk to people, when I talk to them about stress or talk to them about conflict, very often we say, well, if that person would change, or if that would be different, or the news would be better, then I'd be okay. And very often when I deal with people, I say, yeah, that makes sense. I'm no different. But what about you? How do you fit into the fact that you're not handling stress well, or the fact that you seem to be in conflict with family members or others? And so when we start looking inwardly, we start seeing a whole bunch of stuff that if we take care of that is going to make our stress load a little easier, make our conflicts a little less and more positive than negative. And you know what? We're all getting sick and tired of the pandemic. I don't want to talk about the pandemic, but boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot of lessons we can learn from what's gone on over the last 2 years. So that's where I'm going to kind of focus in on.
Okay. Hey, Gerry, do you want to talk about the pandemic?
No.
Sorry, I had to. I owe you one. Okay, that's excellent. So for the people, hopefully whoever's in the area and can make it out to the event, I hope they do. You know, being a farmer myself and a small business owner, and kind of touching on what you said, Kevin, we like to farm. We farm because we like to farm. We're a business owner and started a business because we like what we do. And I've went through that personally. Your business grows and you bring in people, and people, and then there's people problems, and then all that kind of fun stuff. So why don't we go around again? And for the people that cannot attend, let's talk about some of the work that you do, Denise, and what you do in your day-to-day business, and also what you're going to cover with the farmers, things that you think are super important in your area of expertise. So Denise, would you like to start?
Sure. So one of the areas that I do a lot of work with farm families in is just getting a good understanding of the financial management picture of their business, and sitting down with them one-on-one, or maybe 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how many folks are involved in the managing of the business, and just having a good look at their financials, having a good look at the historical financial situation. How has the farm performed financially over the last 5 years, if we've got that information, and looking at just that profitability and using that real data to make some very real and realistic projections for, based on how the historical performance has been. What do we project in an average profitability year? What can we expect based on the acres or the animals that they're farming with now? And just basically looking at the situation, based on what we have to work with now and the profitability that we can reasonably expect, what is that situation going to be like today? And with whatever capital budget plans or whatever's coming up over the next few years, what do we need to do to change in that financial picture, whether it's credit structure or just a rebalancing of working capital to term debt, to make sure that those goals that the family has for the business are achievable, or what needs to be prioritized and pushed out a little bit further if it's not achievable when they're wanting that to happen. And what's really important, not just about the numbers, and I always say the numbers are meant to guide your decision, not make them. And that is so true. And what's most important is to really have a good discussion with those farm families about what their goals are. What do they want out of this? What are their personal goals, their family goals, and their business goals? And I find farmers are really good at talking about their business goals. And those end up trickling into the personal goals and the family goals. And when we have a look at those and we say, are these business goals or personal or family? And they're like, well, I guess they're business, but it's because that is their whole life. And so we really get them to focus on what is just personal, what is just for you, has nothing to do with family, has nothing to do with the business. And sometimes that takes a little bit of thinking and talking, but we come up with a few things on that list so that they're actually fulfilled in their life and not just living in the business and the business is all it is. And one of those larger barriers to farm transition is for producers to know that there's life after farming so that they can slow down, or I hate to use that retirement word because that's not necessarily anything some farmers want to talk about, but just what are they doing this for? And when they're not farming anymore, or they're slowing down or removing themselves from the business a bit, what else do they have for themselves and for their family connections? And just make sure that those are good and strong and they know what they're working for at the end of the day. So when they back away from the farm, there's still lots of life. There's still lots of them there. The farm isn't all of them. It doesn't identify them completely. So just having a good discussion about those things. But spending a lot of time talking about the financial management of the business and what can it afford to do as we move forward into business planning, but also as we move forward into transition planning. Because every farm is at a stage of either transitioning in or planning for transitioning out. So just making sure that we've got the financial health of the business there to allow for whatever it is they're managing towards, whether it's a transition or whether it's growth, whatever it is.
Okay, fantastic. As you guys were talking and covering the first question I had for you, I said, this is the three of you guys in a room for farmers is actually such a powerhouse event. As a business owner and a farmer myself, the three biggest sticking points, the things maybe we don't like doing, can be financials, the HR, and then the people problems. So to have you guys in one room doing one event, that's awesome, right? It's not just all financial or all conflict. It's the three toughest subjects. So it's really exciting. Okay, Kevin, I had that comment. I said, when you were saying, I just want to farm, that farmer that was growing and growing,
Right.
and he had all those people problems. I went through that personally. And I can imagine a lot of self-employed people, farmers, when they grow, they have those problems, right? They're like, I didn't sign up for this. I just want the guy to show up for work, do his job so I can continue farming. So I love that you bring that HR expertise, because that's a tough thing for farmers to deal with. We don't know it until you get into it, right? So can you share on your day-to-day work and then some of the stuff that you touch on in the Managing the Storm event?
Sure. So HR is a it covers such a big umbrella, right from, having a problem employee and training a business owner of how to have a proper conversation with that particular employee, to interviewing better, or whatever the case may be. So when I would get a call from a farm, usually, like I said, there's an issue of some kind or something they want to do better. So similar to Denise's, we open up with a conversation with how the farm's going and kind of the pains that they may be feeling. Just like anything, you may feel a pain here, but chances are the root problem is somewhere else. And when you look at HR, there's a foundation where you need to have employee files and that base, right? And then really after that, there's two sides of it. You're either recruiting or you're trying to get them to retain your employees. So we split that into two sides. So if as through the conversation, is the real pain I'm not attracting the right people, or I've got some 15-year employees that I'm scared of losing, or am I doing enough, or all that sort of stuff. So I think those are usually kind of the main ones. And we have a whole program. We start right from are you promoting your farm enough as a true business where a potential employee feels it's a sustainable business where, yeah, I'm going to take a chance and start my career here, and just offering that professionalism. Right to doing the ad, doing the interviews, doing the hiring process, and the onboarding, and then again, once all that's done, what are we doing to make sure that we keep them? So that's the what I would offer when I get on the farm. And then the more you work with them, then there's the side training. Like I can train a farmer to interview better and more professionally. I can train a farmer to have a performance type of conversation with employees. So there's lots there. But for the presentation, just because it's so much, a lot of it's focused on, again, family over regular employees, where I always use my daughter. I learned a big lesson from my teenage daughter where I coached her whole life, and she had a pretty tough game and with some of the other players, and we're driving home and I'm talking about the game, and she needed her dad, and she pointed that out. And where, sometimes I need you as a coach, sometimes I need you as a dad. I really need my dad right now. So that was a real, and that happens on the farm a lot, where numerous times I've been on farms, and most of farmers are the D personality. They're running their own show, and whatever the case may be. And so if they have a family supper and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, I got my whole family here, I'm gonna get some of these little details worked out. And right, supper tables, maybe not the place, and so we help. And Denise, I think that shows how important those conversations are, where Denise touches it on, where you need this through transition, through finance. You also need this for HR. You also need it to relieve some stress. So really separating the business from the family and assigning that time. So I talk a lot about that, and and then just walk through the steps. Lots of times at these events, they have their own issues, so they'll bring them into that, and that fireside chat is where a lot of those come forward.
Oh, that's fantastic. So they can ask questions and you guys answer. Is that the format?
Oh yeah, they just fire them at us. They put us on the spot.
I haven't had the opportunity to attend. I think the first year you guys had it, I was coming back from Alberta, if I remember correct, right at that same time, but I had to get home, so I couldn't make it. And then last year was online, and then here we are, third year, right? Is that correct?
Yes, you bet.
Sounds like a great event, especially to be able to ask those questions. I want to give you guys a little plug right here, and I'll do it again at the end. You guys are all freelance consultants for hire, right? Like if a farmer has an issue. And, to me, that's so important. And I'll share why really quick. When I was a small business owner, I hired 1 employee, 2 employees, and then you go, oh my gosh, I need performance reviews. I need a company manual. So it starts to snowball, right? And then you have some people problems and people doing their thing. And then you just literally sometimes don't know how to handle this. And there's legalities. When I finally sucked it up and found proper consultants and had them as part of my team, it honestly changed my life. And the one I'm thinking of, I have my numbers person and my HR person. It was quickly an email. Hey, so-and-so, this is what's going on. What do I do? Because sometimes there can be legalities with it. So that's why I want to give you a plug, because sometimes as business owners, right, we think we have to do everything and know everything. And each of these fields that you guys do are specialties. Like there's so much to know. So plug for you guys. And we'll do it again at the end too. I'm going to get you guys to share your information. If anybody wants to reach out, they can do that. Gerry, we'll move on to you. Your material that you are covering. What do you share at the event?
Tracy, actually, your plug you just put in for us was one of the points I wanted to make, and I'll make it now is and I often, when I deal with people, I use this analogy. If you break your leg, you don't just sit back at home and go, oh well, it's going to heal, right? If you get into an accident and you get hurt, you don't just go home and say, oh, it'll heal. And it's like that with conflict or with stress, particularly when stress leads to some other mental illnesses. People need to reach out for help because that help is there. So often it's good for people to be able to verbalize and what's going on in their heads. And so when I talk about wanting to get people to look inwardly and see what's going on inside of them, I want to leave one thing with the participants in these workshops. And maybe I had a thought last night that maybe I would put this on every PowerPoint slide is, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And I have to remind myself of that on a daily basis. And so that's something I really want to get into so that people can start first fixing themselves before they try and fix others, right? Because as we grow up, and we all grew up in different circumstances and different cultures, perhaps. And so as we grow up, we start building this narrative around ourselves. And so when we start facing challenges such as stress or conflict, we want to stay within those walls because that's where we feel comfortable. But very often we have to break down those walls. And just like Kevin said, you know what? We have to learn to communicate better. We have to learn to talk. Okay, so something that I want to talk about to the participants in the workshop is the 90-10 rule. Again, 10% of what we experience in life is just life happening. It's not always positive, but it's just simply what happens. The other 90% of a conflict or a blown up stress situation is the way we react to these things. And so there's a way we have to learn to react better to the circumstances around ourselves. When I talk about that narrative, and this is where I'm going to mention the pandemic. I mean, we've seen the country divided, we've seen families divided, we've seen all kinds of opinions. And Tracy, I've told you before how much I hate social media, but I still do go on social media. And so if I go on social media in the morning, I find myself starting to churn inwardly. And so because I'm reacting that way to what I see there, when someone talks to me later, I'm still churning. So I react in a totally wrong way to other people, in the relationships I have. So again, we have to learn to fix ourselves first before we can fix other situations. So again, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And let's figure out how we can live life better in our relationships with ourselves and in the stressors that absolutely everybody has.
I love it. Gerry, your quote game is always strong, just bang on. I actually printed that quote off the other day. I'm like, so smart. You and we always do the quote thing. That's perfect. But you know what? There's so much wisdom in so many little words and quotes, and that's why I love them. Okay,
we can't see on the other side of a screen. They're all written on the wall, just on the other side of his camera.
Oh, that's
come on, Kevin.
They're plastered everywhere.
That was like my office and then my house. I have quotes everywhere and they change. And then sometimes I put quotes up for Anthony. Don't tell him that. Hint, hint. Shh, don't tell him. Okay, so did we cover everybody? We switched order here. So I want to make sure Denise, Kevin, Gerry. Okay, we're all covered. So we really could dive into each one of you guys and do a whole show episode on the work that you guys do, probably 4 episodes each. But really what I wanted to do was bring you guys on to share your upcoming event, bring you guys on to share you guys as a resource for farmers. Before we wrap up, I want to give you guys the opportunity to share any final words of wisdom, encouragement for farmers, one last moment to connect with the farmers in our audience. I'll assign Gerry first.
Oh, you're throwing me for a loop here. All right. Well, first and foremost, when it comes to stress, when it comes to mental health issues, when it comes to conflict, everybody has to understand the fact that they are not alone.
Yes.
Other people do that as well. You made the comment before, Tracy, that you know what, we're having an in-person workshop. It's time we're able to connect with people. Amen to that. Because without that human connection, well, we all know what's happened over the last 2 years and how each one of us personally have reacted differently to what I sometimes say, you know what, I've been in this room here for the last 2 years. Don't go out. And so that human connection certainly for me is very, very important. So first and foremost, we're going to connect with people. Secondly, I want to challenge people that, you know what, again, they're not alone. Thirdly, or fourthly, I want people to know that there's hope and relief. Because at the end of the day, I want them always to understand we do not see things as they are. We see things as we are.
Amen, Gerry. Kevin, would you like to go?
I need a couple more minutes because I want to try to think of a nice quote just to beat Gerry, but I can't come up with one.
Denise, did you want to go?
I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
I'll never beat Gerry.
You got to pull up the internet, Kevin. We can give you a few moments. Tap away.
Yeah, Google it.
Yeah.
So I think my point is what I want to get across is let's enjoy our work again. Let's enjoy the people that we work with, be it family or be it people that you've brought into your family, right? It's a family business. So take the time, grade yourself as a boss, grade yourself as a mom or dad, as far as who you're working with as a family, and yeah, spend the proper time with your family, spend the proper time with your business, and yeah, have fun what you're doing. It's really my it's the best I can do in a quote, Gerry.
That was pretty darn good, Kevin. Good job. Okay, Denise, your final words of wisdom.
I think what I would like to leave farm families with at the end of our event is just some really good tips and takeaways. So just some good, some quick calculations on how they can do a financial health check, and nothing that they need to spend a ton of time or analysis doing, but just a couple things, quick calculations that they can do, just to plug their numbers in and get a good sense of where things are financially when it comes to working capital and cash flow, and just to help them get some confidence and peace of mind as to where they are sitting financially. And if they do find that there's a reason for concern or something there that's concerning them, is how to reach out for help, how to work with advisors better, managing those relationships, and that help is out there and they're not alone, so that they can navigate whatever storm it is they're working through with confidence and peace of mind by getting the knowledge they need and getting the advisors they need to help them if that's required, so that they can manage their business with the confidence and peace of mind that they need to do that. And often I find that when I start working with farm families, it's not necessarily the financial situation that's causing them stress. It's the lack of knowledge. Just not knowing how well they're doing is really the stressful point. So getting some good key takeaways on that. Also about how to have those effective family meetings. And when they have things that they need to be talking about, and we've talked a bit about communication and just getting to talking better, it's just, what do we talk about in those family meetings? Like, how do we get past that? Okay, this feels weird, we're booking a family meeting. What do we talk about? How do we host family meetings effectively? And how do we manage through those when those discussions get maybe a little prickly or uncomfortable? So just having those good takeaways there on what do they, how can they do things once they leave us and go on with their lives after these events? What good takeaways can they take home to their family businesses and plug that in and say, okay, here's what we learned at the event. Here's what we can actually act on and move ourselves forward. And instead of leaving the event and going, okay, that was good, and now we're off for burgers or something. Yeah. So just what can we do to plug into our businesses and make a difference? And that's really what I'm after is helping folks make a difference, is really what our event is about. So we can provide value and make a difference. Really, that's it.
Love it. So I'm going to get one of you guys to do a call out on how to sign up for the event. Share those
Tracy,
details again.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
Can I get Kevin to introduce our guest speaker to you?
Oh, yes, please. I seen that on the agenda. Good. Yes.
Oh,
Please
yeah. So it's Jeff Hodgers, so an NHL great.
Nice.
And for some that don't even follow hockey, local guy from around Spy Hill, fairly close to where I'm working. So I work with him pretty close. And yeah, he was a guy that came from the NHL, and his love was farming, and came back and joined his dad and carried on that farm, and even got his boys interested in. And I know one of his sons are continue farming with him. And yeah, so when I asked him, maybe he can come on as a guest speaker to talk about, how his transition went and that sort of thing. And he's like, well, I'd rather just kind of talk about my hockey career. So he's going to pretty much talk about his hockey career, his fights, and the different teams he's played with. And as we all know, he's pretty much made his career with the gloves off. And very, very tough man, but a very, very nice man. And he's coming along with us.
Excellent. That's a good addition to the lineup. Okay. So final event wrap up. Well, everything that you guys say right here, we'll put in the show notes so people can click over and register. But can somebody just give the details, the dates, the locations of the events, and how to sign up here as we work to wrap up? Denise, are we we're making you do it?
Sliding in my chair.
I can do it.
Oh, Kevin, that's priceless. You got to look away like in school. Don't pick me.
Yeah. Well, if Kevin or I had to share details, we'd be done.
Yeah. No one would show up.
That's funny.
Okay, so our first event is February 24th at St. Mary's Cultural Center in Yorkton. We start at 8 a.m. and finish probably around 3:30 with our one-on-one time with consultants after the event. And then we're again on March 3rd in Verdon at the Tundra Oil and Gas Place. So same agenda for both. We're registering starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll go through the day where we have a complimentary lunch for both events, and we'll end the day around that 3:30 mark to get folks out on the road for wherever they're traveling to. So if folks want to register for the event, they can register on Eventbrite and just key in Managing Through the Storm. Both locations will show up. So wherever they choose to register, they can pick the event that they want to attend there. And that's how you register. We've also got a number of sponsors. And so from Eventbrite, you can see our sponsor list. And so feel free to contact those folks as well.
Excellent. Okay. One final chance to share your details. There are farmers in the audience, and well, we might have pain points in every part of our business, but usually there is one burning thing that's bothering us. So let's start with you, Gerry. If somebody wants to connect with you, how can they do so? And then we'll go Kevin, Denise, and then we'll wrap up.
People can go to gerryfriesen.ca, and there's contact information there. I have two websites, but there's a link to the other one there, my mediation website. So if people would like to chat, if people want to reach out, absolutely, please go to gerryfriesen.ca, and you can do that.
Kevin?
Well, I don't have a website like Gerry does, but you can email me And do you want me to do the email address over, or?
You know what? I can include that in the show notes.
Yeah. And lots of my clients now, especially the ones I have on retainer, is texting. So really sending me a text with a want for a phone call is more than enough.
Okay, perfect. And Denise.
Yeah, for those folks who want to connect with me either before or after the event, they can do so at my website, philipcheckmanagement.com. There's information there about our practice, but also how to get in touch with us as well. So folks can go there to meet with me.
Perfect. As we wrap up, I just want to take 3 words that each of you guys pretty much said throughout our conversation here. You are not alone. Okay, more than 3 words. Each of you guys said it, and I think that's a great point to wrap this session up. I know, Gerry, we don't want to talk about the pandemic, but we're all ready for connection. So if you guys can make it out to the event, do it. Go hear these guys speak, connect with other farmers, it will help you not feel alone anymore. We need to get out there and connect, right? And building on that, you are not alone in your business. Trust me, guys, I throw myself under the bus as a farmer, small business owner. I thought I had to do it all. You struggle through, you know what? We make things so much harder than we have to when there's smart minds that know each part of the business that we can easily tap into their knowledge. So you're not alone in life. You're not alone in your business. So please don't be. Gerry, Denise, Kevin, it was wonderful talking to you guys. Thank you so much for joining me again. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having us, Tracy.
You're very welcome. And you guys in the audience, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, like it, share it, and get it out there because other farmers need to hear what these 3 have to say. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.